What is autoimmunity at the end of the day, right? It's a pretty tragic case of mistaken identity, where the body goes after a chain of molecules that it perceives as being hostile.
Started working together, you introduced the concept of leaky gut, and I favored the term intestinal permeability, which is a lot more palatable from a scientific perspective. In the last 7 or 8 years, there seems to be a lot more work in this regard, and it's getting more and more accepted. Could you speak about what intestinal permeability or leaky gut really is?
Yeah, I would say in broad strokes. I mean, it's a complex process, but in broad strokes, the junctions of the gut are supposed to be tight for reasons, which are numerous, one of them being inflammation. Those junctions can become loose, and they allow molecules that ordinarily, if those junctions were tight, wouldn't be able to slip through this sort of mesh that's been created in the gut. And larger molecules, and oftentimes in terms of diet, those are dairy molecules, gluten molecules, slip through the cracks. They create challenges for the immune system, right? And so what is autoimmunity at the end of the day, right? It's a pretty tragic case of mistaken identity, where the body goes after a chain of molecules that it perceives as being hostile. And the idea behind intestinal permeability is that sometimes these molecules that shouldn't be there interact with the immune system, and they look very similar to tissue. That a dairy molecule, for instance, may have a real similarity to thyroid tissue. And the body mistakes those molecules that aren't supposed to be there, ends up attacking thyroid tissue when what it really wanted to go after was something that shouldn't have been there to begin with.
Under normal circumstances, with the tight junctions that are in between the cells lining the gut, these molecules don't have access to the lymphoid tissue or the immune system cells. But in the setting of this intestinal permeability, now these molecules that normally would have been kept away from the immune system by the intact intestinal barrier are now being seen by the immune system, and hence there's a reaction against them. And then you raise another concept, which is molecular mimicry, right? Which is basically these proteins, which are foreign proteins to the human body, share a lot of similarities with proteins that are present on our own tissues. And that's why when the immune system attacks them, there's some cross-reactivity with our own tissues. Yeah, that's definitely a very leading hypothesis, right, in the autoimmune world. And we believe that molecular mimicry, and it's not just foods, but I do think that based on yours and my experience over the last decade or so working with these patients, it plays a role, whether it's a primary driver or whether it's a virus that causes molecular mimicry and creates autoimmunity. We have great animal models for this, or we have the type 1 diabetes example of a virus potentially causing molecular mimicry and damage to the pancreas. So I think this is a very important concept, and thank you for that really lucid, beautiful explanation of it.